Welcome to Cafe Technica.
Hello. Welcome to season 2 of Cafe Technica. We appreciate you listening. And today I have with me someone that I've worked with now for quite a few years. I've got a lot of respect for him, and I'm excited to see what he tells us during this episode. Mr. Ryan Heck, how are you, sir?
Doing great, Tom. Thanks for having me. What an honor to be kicking off season 2 with you. So thanks for having me. And the mutual respect is, I guess it's mutual.
Thank you. I appreciate you saying that. I appreciate it. So tell the audience kind of what you're doing today. You don't have to give us like the LinkedIn version, but like tell us what you're doing, where you came from, sort of where you sit professionally.
Yeah, sure. So we're building a marketplace for IT field service pros to get connected with buyers of IT field services. Anything from like rack and stack to AP installation. Big one that we're working through right now is Starlink installs. So we're actually building an AI project manager for Starlink installs.
That's super cool.
Yeah,
And so like where did you come from on this path, right? Because like you weren't always in the field services business, you weren't always in software. Like how did that start, right? Like tell us more about that.
yeah, it's kind of fun. I started my career actually in telecom, wrecking out cables out of telecom networks. So literally, like while I was still in college, I was climbing down into manholes and hooking chains up to cables and pulling them out with like real machines and sometimes with like a skid steer on the street.
It's
Pretty,
crazy how like all of us started sort of in
yeah.
these like really dirty jobs initially, right? Like it's
Uh,
it was the most fun you've ever had though when you were a kid.
Totally, yeah. Looking back on it, tons of fun. When I was climbing down in a manhole in Seattle, Washington, in March, and it was raining, and the manhole's filling up with water. It wasn't super fun.
Yeah. It's like, come on, Ryan, get in there, do the terminations, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you, man.
But
I've been there.
I got bored with that. It was a family business, and I didn't want to do it. I wasn't passionate about it, and so I went and started flipping houses in the middle of the Great Recession. Taught myself how to identify foreclosures and research them, make sure you're buying the right loan position, and just like went nuts doing that. Stayed in that industry for a while, and then actually got into field service because of all of that experience in managing fix and flip and residential rental.
Wow.
And so, before this, I was building out a big marketplace for real estate services. And, we sold that in 22 and did pretty well. And my buddy Mike Mudd, the founder of CloudWork Pro, came up to me at a golf event, a couple of years after and said, "Hey,
That's fun.
you should check out CloudWork Pro. We're doing some pretty cool stuff." And he was
Yeah.
right. We are doing
That's
some
pretty
cool
cool.
stuff.
Yeah, it's weird the way like a lot of us like have different foundations for how we get started and stuff, and then they take on kind of lives of their own, right? Like software and automation, and like I've been on the podcast now with several people, and nobody ever starts in this world, but they sort of end there sometimes. Like, how did you know that you wanted to pursue this? Like once you were doing it, like how did you know like, hey man, I really enjoy doing this. This is something I want to continue.
When you say this, I assume you mean what we're doing with CloudWork
Yeah, like
Pro.
platforms and like services, because you've been doing that now for quite some time.
Yeah. I think like as much as as he's been villainized in the media and in whatever series or movies he's been in, Travis Kalanick, I have Travis Kalanick to thank for to be kind of my inspiration, because I saw the growth of Uber. I was like one of their first users in multiple cities, and before Uber there was this app called Taxi Magic, And, I experienced this horrible experience in my 20s before Uber existed of trying to get a cab, right? Like all the homies are hanging out. We're going out to the bars. We're like, we need some taxis to come pick us up from the place where we were pre-funking. And it's like, okay, you call yellow cab, I'll call white cab, and you call city cab, and everybody orders three, and
Yeah.
and maybe three will show up, and we'll all get to where we need to go.
Yeah, right. It's
Right?
amazing. Like no one will understand that now.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
they that is forever gone, right? Like
Yeah. Yeah. So that was like I think the inspiration was seeing Uber grow and thinking about it from a professional perspective. I was looking at American Homes for Rent, where we were trying to institutionalize single family rental. I was looking at all these services we were consuming in a very disjointed manner and saying, man, there's a way to Uberify this, right? Like
yeah.
I can do what Travis did with transportation. I can do that with services. And there's so many people that are still trying to do it. Like it's not as easy. It's just not. There's so many more moving
Yeah.
parts.
No, and like we know that too, right? Like being in the same world, like services is very tough. And I think people don't recognize that, even when you look at like DoorDash and Uber Eats and things like that, like people have no idea what goes on under the surface more so than the interface that you're like think it's just software. There's a lot of people problems that are in there that you just sometimes you're not solving with technology, you're solving with other things, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, you're relying on people to follow a process, and you're hoping that the technology that you're leveraging will help manage the chaos between the people and the process.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So like that's a great transition. Like so you're obviously in the tech world. You're using a lot of technology yourself. You're selling technology. Like how do you keep yourself from getting consumed with that? Like what are the things that you're using every day? What are the things that you're trying to steer clear of? Like tell me more about your workflow and productivity when it comes to technology in particular.
Yeah. Well, I use technology to help me stay organized and stay focused. Um, and then I use my brain to ask myself, is this really my highest and best use today? Uh,
Yeah. Amazing. You're using your brain. Incredible, Ryan. Like what most people don't talk about, right?
well, like I think a lot of people just rely on technology to organize their day for them, right? Like some people live and breathe and die by their Google Calendar or their Microsoft Calendar, and that's where it begins, right? That's where my day begins. Like I wake up, um, I hopefully don't first thing look at my phone, but usually I do. But what I do is I look at my calendar and I say, what do I have to do today? What can I move around? How can I go golfing this afternoon? No, just joking.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I really try to find ways to leverage technology to optimize my day. So, after I look at that calendar and kind of get my day arranged and start thinking through the things that I need to do or the people that I need to talk to, I actually pop open this app called Perplexity. It's one of the bigger AI
AI
tools
models.
out there, right? Uh, they leverage a lot of different LLMs, which I think is pretty cool. Uh, and I use that to kind of like help me stay accountable to the things that I need to do. I also have an agent that I like a you know it's an executive assistant agent that I created using a
Yeah.
platform called Base 44, and it takes all of my recorded calls uh, and creates action items for everybody that works for me, uh, and then sends me a summary of what those action items are, and like helps me follow up with people and hold them accountable. Um,
How
So
long
that
have you been using that? Like, how long have you been doing the like automation through AI type stuff?
just a few months. Like this stuff only really became like super useful, I'll say 6 months ago, right?
Sure.
Like a year and a half ago, sure, you could train your own agent if you were a friggin' genius.
Yeah.
Uh,
Right. Right.
and now there's tools out there that make it super easy, like Claude Cowork makes it pretty dummy proof. People just have to, stop being afraid of it and stop thinking I'm going to fail or I'm not going to know what to do. Just go try.
Yeah, see, I've been saying that to the same, like to people as well, and I think what's interesting to me is like as you're talking through this, like you start your day very analog, right? Going through a calendar, trying to figure out your schedule. Like it's still a very non-technology sort of mentality, right?
Yep.
And like we were joking earlier, but like you did come from a world before technology with taxis and trying to kind of automate this stuff. But today there's so many tools, and you're keeping yourself sort of flexible, using new things with AI and trying to automate what's not important. Like I'm very interested in how people do that and blend both. Do you think a lot of that stems from sort of how you grew up in technology, or do you think that's just kind of how you use it and like a personal preference sort of thing?
I used to think it was like, part of my generation. I'm an older millennial, right? So, I'm like one of the first couple of years of the millennials. And so we grew up in an interesting time where technology was evolving very rapidly and that the internet came about when we were, 10, 11, 12 years old. Uh, and so, I thought that because of that environment that I grew up in, that's why I've always just been drawn to finding technological ways to enhance my day-to-day life. Um, I I actually think it might have more to do with where I grew up and and the people that I was surrounded by. So I grew up in Redmond, Washington,
Okay.
the home of Microsoft, right?
Oh, Microsoft. Yeah, you didn't know anything about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, like the kids that I went to school with were, the kids of tech executives or engineers, like, the early like Windows engineers and stuff like that. So, you know, we were we were raised with technology in the household. Whereas I think some other folks that I've encountered that are also of my generation are very tech illiterate still. Uh,
Yeah.
to this day.
I think it totally depends how you grew up, right? Like so I'm this is like a huge mission for me, and like that micro generation Zennials where you're between Gen X and millennials, like I'm in there, and we sort of knew the world before the internet. Now we live and breathe everything that goes on, AI and all the stuff that comes in. But um I find that more people from that like microcosm of people of like generation is very disposable as it pertains to like how we use technology, because there was instant message, and then there was email, and then there was blogs, and then there was YouTube, and like we just keep seeing changes. And if you solidified on one, you're either left in the dust, or you're missing out, right? So like we've had to kind of do that. But I totally agree with you that like if you grew up in a part of the country, or grew up in a certain type of household, like you either were the Gen X mentality, which sometimes leads to tech illiteracy, or you were leaning forward, like you grew up in Redmond, Washington, like here's now your tech is in your backyard. It's very interesting the way that we have it. So like I'm sure to this day you probably still use pen and paper for certain things, and you're probably sort of half and half, right? Like I got to imagine it's very similar for you.
Yeah, it's funny. I've got a notebook and a pen on my desk
Yeah,
at home. I'm not at home right now. I'm in Vegas at my brother's house, so
that's awesome. Yeah,
I don't have my notebook with me, um,
sure.
because it lives on my desk. It doesn't come with me. Like I've got the device that
Yeah.
that can do all that stuff. I use the notes function on that
Yep.
device, but I've used the notebook even less now that I've implemented this agent that is basically like listening to me.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're like, gee, thanks for like, and again, like we just throw all caution into the wind. It's like, that's cool. Like you can have access to all my data. Like we've done it 30 times before. It's okay. Like it's sort
Right.
of terrifying and useful at the same time, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I mean, you're in a very fast paced sort of startup mentality. You're dealing with, I'm sure, different generations of people as employees, and I'm sure you've dealt with that in the past. Like, what do you find the younger generation is better at, versus not understanding things? Like, I'm sure there's a positive and negative to people that now have grown up with the internet and all these tools that we were forced to figure out. They just grew up with it. Like, where do you see positive and negatives there?
It's so funny. Like I look at and I work with Gen Alpha. Like like my son is Gen Alpha, right?
Yeah.
And I work with he and his friends on stuff all the time, and they're very scientifically literate, like computer science literate. Like my son is learning, he's teaching himself Python. He's using ChatGPT to teach himself Python. He's an exception, right? Like he is not your typical Gen Alpha kid. Um, and I have a couple people in Gen Z that work for me, and they're smart and they pick stuff up quickly. Um, and if you ask them to go, uh, use a new tool or learn a new tool or come up with a new strategy because of the way things are evolving, they're quick to adapt to that. Um, but I think it's more because of the way that I've hired, not not because they're from Gen Z. Because I've had people work for me in the past that are, the same generation as me or even older than me that I've asked to do the same things and they're willing to do it. Um,
Sure.
and so it's, I think it's less generational and I think it's more up to the individual when it comes to technology. I think
Sure.
I think we're all capable of great things and we're also all capable of burying our heads in the sand.
It's true. Yeah, no, that's very true. And I mean, like, look, you're a parent, right? So do you find that you often think about, you know, what your kid is doing on technology? Like, are you often, like you said, he's on Chat GPT. Like, how do you handle sort of teaching them about it? Like, is it more what you did, or do you have sort of a plan for that?
I wish I could say I have a plan. Um, like if I had a plan, it would be because I knew what was going to happen.
Yeah, yeah, me
But
too.
we don't know what's going to happen, and so we just try and adapt. And I really want my son to grow up being a tech whiz, but also living a balanced lifestyle. He
Yeah,
plays sports and he plays with his friends outside. He rides bikes and goes out and gets dirty in the woods
yeah,
uh, and I want him to do that stuff too because that's part of the human experience. And so like you see kids out with their parents at dinner and they're glued to a screen playing a game or
great.
texting their friends or watching a movie so that the parents can ignore the kid, and we do the opposite of that. Like we've always
Yeah,
done the opposite of that. We've always been very focused on connecting socially as a family and including our son in the conversation, and we've taught
yeah.
them.
No, I was gonna say I got the same advice. Like when my son was first born, one of my old CEOs actually said to me, he's like, you just talk to the kids like they're one of the adults, and if you include them in on the conversation, they'll pick up on that. And that always struck me, like it stuck with me, and we've done that. And I think some of the stuff is probably great. I probably got some bad things from that as well, where he thinks he can include himself in everything. But I'm like, you're gonna make a great sales guy one day. But like I look at the technology and people's planning and things, and like, what's your opinion on that driving success later in life? Like, do you think that the highly successful people you've worked with had a balance, had an edge on tech or non-tech? Like, do you see a sort of a framework for that works, or do you think it's still just individualism?
I think there's probably a little bit of a shift happening. They're back back in the 2010s, the early 2010s. There were many people that I worked with that were incredibly successful, that weren't necessarily like tech driven or like exceptional at leveraging different types of technology to help themselves get through a day or get through a project. Uh, but I think the shift that's happening today is that if you're not able to adopt and leverage new technologies, you're you're going to have a really hard time competing, um, in in the long run. In the next 5 to 10 years, I think even like restaurateurs, people that that run small businesses, if they're not adopting AI everywhere they possibly can, uh, they're going to fail because their
I mean, you're
competitors.
seeing that firsthand, right? Like with your current business, like you deal with small businesses all the time. If they aren't plugged in, like you can get totally lost, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, just from like a marketing perspective, right? Like
Right.
um, I was having some back issues uh over the weekend and really needed to find a place to get a massage.
Yeah.
And where did I go?
Yeah, right on AI and Google,
Yeah,
and it starts to do
yeah.
its thing, right? Like,
I asked Gemini. I didn't
yeah,
ask.
yeah,
I,
yeah,
I
yeah,
didn't. I didn't Google best massage, therapist in
yeah, yeah.
Las Vegas. I went to Gemini and I said, "Hey, give me like a rundown of like, the best massage therapist who has the best
Sure.
reviews, the most complaints, blah blah blah, right?" And that's how I found that place, and that's how everybody is going to start finding what they're looking for. And if you're not optimizing your online presence for that kind of search,
Right.
you're not going to get found.
Yeah, I mean, more like, even so, when I was younger in my career, another piece of advice I got from somebody was, hey, make sure that you have your own brand, right? Like, you work for a company, you have their brand, that's what you live and breathe, but don't forget about your own brand, because you've got to build that content, and you've got to be, people have to find you on social media at the time, right? Like,
Yeah.
when did you find that you were like not the youngest person in the room, and you're like, oh, I actually have to worry about this, right? Like, I don't want to be lost to the sands of somebody working an algorithm. Like, do you when talk me through like when you realize that, because obviously it's working, right? Like, what you're doing is working.
Yeah. So, I mean, personal brand wise, I got the same advice. And I saw it, frequently on LinkedIn, especially toward the second half of the last decade, right? Like 2018, 19, 2020.
Yeah, yeah.
People were adamant that you got to build your personal brand. And it's funny because I already had. I had already built like a great personal brand in the single family rental space. Like people said, I need lawn mowing service for my portfolio, and people said Ryan Heck, right? Like they didn't say
Yeah,
Task Easy. Like
yeah,
you
yeah, yeah,
you go
exactly.
and ask somebody now, even they'll probably say you should talk to Ryan, right? Like
Yeah.
uh so as far as when did I find that I'm not the youngest person in the room anymore? I still am, man. Like look at me. I'm ageless.
He's like the salt and pepper just is experience, you know, like it throws it in there. I get it, man. Like, but you're actually like you're joking, but actually like you're also saying something that I think is important, which is like you've always got to keep yourself fresh, right? Like there is no one way to stick with it. And I think, you know, what I worry about and what I like to kind of get the sense from guests is like, so you have all this technology, you've got all that experience. Like, how do you not let it consume you and be the person in the living room at 11 o'clock at night trying to instantly respond to emails and, you know, let it consume you as a person, especially when you're trying to be with your kid or, you know, go out to dinner? Like, how do you prevent that?
That's a choice.
Yeah.
They're, it's funny. I think I saw an article or something about, I didn't actually watch the interview, but the founder of Corgi got interviewed. And I think, one of the questions was basically like, how do you ensure you're successful? And it was like, work 24/7. Like you just got to only work, only focus on winning. That's like my sole mission in life. That's the only thing I'm working toward. And like there's a level of psychosis there that's real, especially with founders in Silicon Valley, and uh, that is how a lot of them win. Um,
Hmm.
and they're making that choice, and I'm making a different choice. I want to live a well-rounded, balanced life. I want to build an awesome and successful business. Uh, and I also want to build an awesome and successful family. And so when the end of the day on the East Coast hits, it's about time to go pick up my son at school because I'm on the West Coast, and I get to do that. Because I have the luxury of being the boss. I'm kind of setting my own schedule
Sure.
and being able to take calls on the road, and so I make the choice to be the guy that picks his son up from school and takes him to soccer practice or like plays soccer with him in the yard.
Yep.
Like once in a blue moon powder day, I'll pull him out of school and we'll go skiing
Yeah.
because I choose my family um, when I can, not when it's convenient, uh, but when I prioritize them over the business as often as possible.
Sure. No, I get that, man. Like I actually do the same thing with my son. Like, you know, I grew up, my father worked for the gas company, right? So like he didn't have the luxury of picking me up after school. And it was something that when I had a kid, I said, you know, I really want to do that because I have the ability to, right? So like I might as well make use of that and capitalize on the ability to do it. And I tell him even to this day, I'm like, you know, the reason I do what I do is because I wanted to do that for you. Like I wanted to be there. Like I think you're absolutely right. Like it is a choice that each person has to like consciously be aware of, right? Like you can't just say, "Oh, I'll schedule it in the calendar" or whatever. You can't do that. So, are there any frameworks around that you think you've learned over the years? Like, you know, whether you started out or recently. Like, I know people, you know, they always follow like Simon Sinek or others that minimalism, sort of mentality. Like, is there a framework that you think has it kind of informed that or no?
No, it's funny. I tried reading nonfiction, books written by
Yeah.
people that are probably smarter than me. Um,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I listened to Peter Thiel's 0 to 1, and I
Yeah.
think that might be uh the last business or like self-help or like self-improvement book that I ever read or listened to
Sure.
because I, I don't want to I don't want this to like come across as cocky or like I have all the answers, but every time I got into those books it was like all of this stuff just makes too much sense.
It's like
I'm
common
not
sense, right?
yeah, like I'm not actually learning anything here. This isn't
Yeah.
groundbreaking. You just have to like if you want to be successful, you just have to be self-reflective and do the work. Like
Right.
I don't know. So I don't have any frameworks. I built my own, and like I try to just do the right thing.
Sure. No, that makes sense. I mean, look, you're also doing good for a lot of other people, right? Like the other thing that makes me gravitate to like your company and sort of the mission and just knowing you, like, as we work together, like it is important for you that you're building an ecosystem where people can make money and feed their families. And like, you're also talking here about making the choice to pick up your kids and, making sure that you do this balanced sort of mentality. I think it's important that people realize that like you can create, like, opportunity is still created by people. You can create that opportunity. It's not all in the technology you use or what other people tell you. Like you've got to sort of make really smart decisions on your own. Do you have any kind of recent stories where, you were doing something and then you saw the outcome that it had on somebody else and you were like, this is why we do this, right? Like, this is why I continue doing what I do. Like, is there anything there that you can share?
That's an awesome question. But like I have to like think through, and unfortunately, I don't get like a lot of the success stories fed to
Yeah,
me.
yeah, yeah. Only the problems, right?
I get the problems.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
um, but I can actually think back to seeing so we go and do a review of all the technicians on our platform every year, and I went through and looked through some of the top performers, and we've got a few guys that are like individuals, right? It's not like a tech group that has a bunch of technicians. It's individuals, and we have multiple people that are making like mid six figures every year, uh,
Mhm.
and 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 we're a part of their story. We're not the reason why. Like, I'm not going to take credit for that
Sure.
person's success. Like, their success is their own. Um, but we've been able to be a part of their success, and we've been able to help them, um, maybe attain a better lifestyle. Um,
Sure.
Thanks to the technology that we've created and the ecosystem that we're assembling. And that's
Yeah.
really important to us, right? Like that's part of the foundation of this company. We started this company because we saw techs getting ripped off, and we saw clients having bad experiences, buyers having bad experiences with platforms, with ill prepared technicians on platforms, and we wanted to fix that for both parties.
Yeah.
That was so important at to me personally at Task Easy when we were doing the lawn mowing thing, uh, because like same deal as if you're not creating a win for everybody. um, uh, the guys at Second Nature will love this. Second Nature is a company that started off as Filter Easy, and they came up with this concept of the triple win, right? So they have multiple customers. They're a marketplace, and they wanted to create a win for everybody, including themselves. And so that's like the ethos of our platform is we're creating a winning ecosystem for everybody.
Yeah, I agree with you, right? Like, and you've actually touched on something that I asked people, like, do you think we've optimized life too much, right, through technology and automation and things where like we're automating ourselves out of the experience, right? You mentioned human experience earlier. I think the opportunities that you're creating literally stem from you saying we don't want to do that. We're not trying to automate these people out of business. We're trying to give them opportunities to be successful. And in certain cases, you're seeing it, right? Like you're seeing these people being able to provide a life for
Yeah,
their
yeah,
families.
absolutely. It's funny. I love this topic, because I look at Tesla's Optimus robots and think about, that movie I, Robot, and, the
Sure.
robot army coming for us. And it's happening. Like, it's going to happen. Uh,
Yeah.
Technicians are not going to be out in the field doing work by themselves pretty soon. Pretty soon, they're going to have, an autonomous robot working alongside them. And then pretty soon that autonomous robot is going to be joined by another one, is going to be replacing that technician physically doing the work. But
Yeah.
guess what? Somebody still has to supervise
Yeah.
and make sure that they're doing it right, and make sure uh, that they're getting the right kind of training, right? So that
Sure.
the autonomous systems will change the way our technicians operate, but these guys are still going to be in business. And so to bring it full circle back to what you asked is like, no, I don't want to automate anybody out of anything. I want to create a platform that enables the future to happen, um, and gives these guys an opportunity to participate in that.
Yeah. No, I love it. I love the mission and I love how you guys kind of tackle it. And it's what made me gravitate to kind of learning more and want to be a part of that because I think, um, it's all about sort of attitude, right? And it's how you're using these things. And I think you bring up a great point. Like, I was having this conversation with somebody else a couple weeks ago. So, like, if you took a builder from the 1800s and forklifted them into building a house or a barn today, they would look at air guns and power tools and they would say like this is I couldn't have ever envisioned this like moving that fast being able to do these things, and it's almost like well that replaced what so and so used to do. And you bring up a great point, like robots out there, like everybody assumes it's going to be like the movies day one, and you're like no, it's actually another tool that we're going to have to get used to and then learn how to use. Because if I handed that same air hammer to the guy from the 1800s, he'd probably shoot it through his legs within the first 5 minutes, right? Like, and then go, oh no. So, like, it's the same sort of mentality. So, it's interesting to hear you talk about this because obviously that would impact your business lots. But I don't, from what I'm hearing, you don't think like you're not chasing that in replacement, you're chasing it as an augmentation, if I have that right.
Yeah, absolutely. Um,
That's
eh,
interesting.
yeah, I just I don't think things are going to move so fast that people are going to get left behind if they at least try to keep up.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. Do you have like a piece of technology that you use today or that's like intrinsic? Like, and I know people will say like the internet or something, maybe something more specific, but that just is never going to go away. Like you couldn't imagine the world without it at this point.
I mean, yeah, the internet's a good answer
It's
to
a good
that
one,
because
right?
it,
It's like,
you know,
yeah,
because it like, some people might uh not think it all the way through and say like the smartphone, right? But that
yeah,
I don't
that
think we're
might
gonna
go
have.
away actually.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
I think
yeah.
we're gonna need those in about 10 more years.
Yeah.
Or it'll just change shape, right? Like it won't be a
Right.
device that you carry around with you. It'll be like something that is integrated into what you wear. Uh,
Yeah, I agree. It's a wearable. I agree with
yeah. Um, uh, I don't know. That's a deep question, Tom. Uh,
I think it's so like personal, right? So like I've also heard people say that like they couldn't live without some of these wearables tracking because like you hear about stories today where they're like it tracks my heart rate because they had an event in their life that then, that saved them, and they were like I couldn't envision my life without that, and the fact that we have that now, like that would be something I couldn't live without. It's always interesting to kind of hear people's personal sort of interaction with it because I love the topic that you bring up of like robots and AI and like where this is going, wearables. Like, I think Apple's probably going to release something later this year that has to do with like a wearable on your face. And I think that will take the place of like you're seeing the future of the smartphone. And I think people are looking at that going like, well, I can't live without my smartphone. And you go, yeah, that probably will change, but the fact that you can make calls won't, right? Or the fact that you can take pictures won't. And that's something that we couldn't live without. And I think like you and I come from a world where like we could never do what we do without digital photography, right? Like that today,
yep.
I couldn't envision a world without that, right?
Uh, like we need the smartphone to take pictures of every single step of every single job.
Yeah.
Otherwise these guys don't get paid until everybody's wearing meta glasses. or
That's right.
some
Yeah, yeah,
competitive equivalent, and then you know just everything's just happening automatically for those guys.
yeah.
But
There was a
I just
movie like that, I think, with Robin Williams, where they had like embedded cameras in their head, like from when they were kids, and it would record your whole life. And at the end of your life, like they would play your life video. And I remember thinking of that, going like, this is so out there. And now we're living in that world where you're like, I can actually see that potentially happening at some point.
oh yeah, uh, it will happen, and the government will tap into it,
For sure.
and then it'll be that Tom Cruise movie, Minority Report.
Minority Report. All of this, all of the art is now, driving real life, which is crazy. I think it's crazy.
That's nuts.
So I have a new kind of thing that I'd like to do this season. I'm gonna trial it on you, so we'll see if this works or not. But I'm gonna call it rapid fire, where I'm gonna give you a couple of questions, and without any kind of reason or rationale, like I'd love to hear just kind of the answer, or where, like, how you're doing some of these things. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
We'll
shoot,
hit you New York Minute style. You know what I mean?
love
So
it.
what's the best book that you've read recently?
Project Hail Mary.
Project Hail Mary. I have not heard of that one, so now you've already made this worth it for me. That's awesome.
Oh,
Can you
yeah.
can you tell me one thing about that? Like, what's one thing about that book that's just incredible?
Aliens.
Aliens. I love it. I really want to read this now. All right, cool. You got me there. What do you think the most underrated technology is today?
Wearables.
Wearables, probably. I'd agree with you there. How about the most overrated technology?
AI.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think you got it. Those would be my two. What's one daily habit that you refuse to skip today?
Toothbrushing.
Toothbrushing, taking care of your teeth. We're getting to that age. That's the problem. What's the worst advice that you have ever received?
I can't remember.
Yeah, you don't have any bad advice somebody gave you?
I have a funny filter for negativity. I leave it behind.
You are really good at that, and I just in talking to you, I agree with you. I want to channel my inner Ryan. Like, you are very good at that. You're like, you don't get animated. Um, what's the biggest career risk that you've taken?
Uh, Probably quitting a well-paying job in the middle of the Great Recession to go flip houses.
Flip houses. That was one that I didn't know that about you either. So that's like, I can see that being a big one. How about coffee or tea?
Uh, Coffee unless I'm in England, then tea.
Interesting. All right. How about iPhone versus Android? Gotta.
This is a hot topic because I just switched to iPhone
Yeah.
and I still don't like it as much as my Android, but because everybody in the US uses the iPhone and my son is getting to the age where he's wanting to be on group chats with his friends,
Yep.
I decided to switch to iPhone so I could manage the family plan because my wife is one of those millennials that is a technological idiot.
She's gonna hear this and be super pissed.
No,
What
she'll laugh. Yeah.
She'll laugh. She'll be like,
She'll
"I know,
laugh.
I know." How long have you been on the iPhone? We'll ask that.
Uh, 4 months.
Okay, that's a good bit to be able to start making decisions at that point. I think I hear an Android in your near future, but we'll see. I don't know. I'll have to ask you again in a year. Like, we'll see where it goes.
Yeah. We'll see.
How about what's another company that you admire? Like, give me something that you've looked at and you said, I really like those guys.
Well, I mentioned Uber, which is kind of a cop out, but like it really is like a big part of my inspiration.
Mm.
And I can't think of another one that is like that impactful for me. But if I was gonna like pick a like maybe a lesser known company, it's a company called Lesson, and it was founded by this guy named Jay McKee, who spent years like, in the SFR and construction space, and he's just a gritty entrepreneur, really smart guy, really well connected, and they're doing at Lesson very similar things in the real estate services space that we're doing in the IT field service space. And I just have a ton of respect for Jay and for what he's built, and really admire him and what Lesson's working on.
Interesting. Well, so like that's actually so I do have a question. Maybe I'll save it because I got one more of these rapid fires that I'll give you. But is there one prediction that you might have for the next 5 years? Like, is there something that you think is definitely going to happen in the next 5 years?
Yeah, I mean, I gave you one, right? It's autonomous robots entering our daily lives and helping us to perform services. Um, and I'll give you another one. Um, is autonomous vehicles will become prolific 5 years from now.
I agree with you. There's somebody that I know in New York that we've been joking for years, but he is betting very big on this because he has some inside knowledge on it. And he truly believes that that is something that we're actually behind on, that he thought we'd already be there. And it's hard to imagine a world with that, but I'm actually a huge proponent of this because I think it's actually going to save a lot of lives. I think people aren't looking at it in the right way. And it's just like, this is not one of the things that we're good at. We don't make good decisions at 90 miles an hour. We're not,
Especially in New Jersey.
especially New Jersey. You ain't lying. Yeah, you ain't lying. Well, so like, you're in a leadership role. You've created opportunities. I think the one thing that I'd kind of like to tie that up with is if you were in a room, if somebody was listening today and there was one lesson that you wanted to get across to them to say, hey, look, this is the way that you should lead, or this is how you should shape your career. What would be that lesson? Like, what would you tell those people listening to say, hey, I like what you're doing. What can I do to be like that?
Become an active listener.
Interesting. Double click on that. Like, tell us more about that.
So at American Homes for Rent, there was a gentleman named Jack Corrigan, who was our COO for many years. I don't think he's in the business anymore. I think he might have retired, or he might be on the board now. But Jack was the best listener, and he had this amazing boardroom presence where if he spoke, everybody listened because he didn't speak very frequently. And he chose his words carefully. And he asked more questions than he did make statements. And I watched him do that and really internalize that and tried to embody that behavior because I recognized the quality of leadership coming from him. And so, if I was going to give anybody any advice in becoming a better leader, it's listen to your people, listen to your team, listen to everybody you can, and ask questions. Be curious.
Yeah, that's great advice. I think that's great advice. And I think it's harder and harder for us to do that with so much noise. Like the noise floor has risen so much. That's something you actively have to tune. I agree with you. Well, so tell us more about, as we wrap things up here, tell us more about what you're working on, what you want people to know about, where can they find you? How can they contact you? Give us more information.
Yeah. Cloudworkpro.com. We're also on LinkedIn. You can go to LinkedIn, check out Cloudwork Pro's page. Quite a bit of content gets posted there, so please follow. I won't give you my personal contact info, but if you want to get in touch with us, you can email sales or info@cloudworkpro.com. What we're in a nutshell, I think what we're trying to build is a better way to order and deliver IT field services.
That's great. It's a great mission. I definitely would want people to check it out. And I think you guys are doing great work. I really appreciate you coming on and talking to me about this. Before I wrap anything up here, do you have any questions for me? Can I do anything more to help the people get a hold of you or get your message out there? What can I answer?
Oh, Tom, I think I need to go back and listen to your other podcasts. I've
Yeah,
caught like the little social clips that you put out on
sure.
LinkedIn. So uh, I'll just thank you. Thanks for including me. Thanks for thinking of me and for your kind words and for doing this in the first place for the industry. I think this is a service to people in the industry, and sharing your insights will help everybody build their businesses better.
I appreciate that. I really do. So, thank you for listening to this episode of Cafe Technica. We have several more guests lined up for this year. It'll be an exciting time. Obviously, Ryan has given you guys lots to think about, and I'm hoping you agree, comment, share, and continue to listen. Thank you, and we will talk to you soon.
Oops. Bye bye.